Welcome to the Deep Dive. We dive into complex topics and pull out the key insights, hopefully without overwhelming you. Today, we're tackling something huge, affects millions worldwide, and we're looking at it through, well, a really surprising personal story. Picture this. Dr. Peter Brukner, world-renowned sports medicine physician. He gets to 60, right? And he spent his whole adult life following the standard dietary advice, like religiously, and then bam, he gets diagnosed with prediabetes. So what do you do when the rules you lived by seem to lead you right here?
Yeah, it's a really powerful setup, isn't it? And it shines a light on a much bigger issue, type 2 diabetes. Dr. James Mema mentions, I think, that maybe 14 million Australian adults could be dealing with insulin resistance. That's the engine driving type 2.
Yeah, and the consequences. I mean, they're just devastating. Blindness, amputations, kidney failure, even things like dementia, heart attacks, stroke, untimely death. It's incredibly stark.
It is, absolutely. But, and this is the crucial part, despite how grim that sounds, the material we're diving into today, Dr. Bruckner's own journey and his research, it offers real hope. So our mission here is to unpack all that, to show how actually in a lot of cases type 2 diabetes might be reversible, put into remission.
And the kicker, often not with fancy new drugs, but by changing how you eat. Quite fundamentally, it seems. So yeah, get ready for maybe a bit of a rethink on this whole condition. Okay, so let's unpack this revolutionary idea, thinking about type 2 diabetes as basically carbohydrate intolerance. After Dr. Brukner got that diagnosis, he didn't just, accept it. He dove into the research himself, a deep dive. And what he found led him to do a complete U-turn on his diet. Totally ditched the high-carb, low-fat thing he'd followed for decades.
And the results for him personally were, well, pretty compelling. He switched things up low carb, high fat lost 13 kilograms, and his metabolic health markers improved dramatically, which, directly challenged everything he'd been taught, what many doctors were taught in medical school.
Right, so those core medical beliefs that type 2 is chronic, progressive, means lifelong meds, complications are just sort of inevitable. He found that was, well, basically wrong. For many people, at least. That's huge.
It really is. The fundamental insight here is that type 2 diabetes is essentially a disease of carbohydrate intolerance. Simple as that, almost. When we eat sugars or starches, they break down into glucose. That triggers insulin. Insulin's job, get that glucose out of the blood, into the cells.
Okay.
But if you have insulin resistance, your cells don't listen properly. The pancreas tries harder, pumps out more insulin, but eventually it struggles. Blood sugar stays high. And critically, high insulin is also a fat storage hormone. So it tells your body to store fat, making the problem worse.
So this understanding, it kind of flips the script on what we've been told about food, right? Like maybe we've been blaming the wrong thing.
Exactly. The research really points to what it calls this faulty obsession with the evils of dietary fats. And ironically, that obsession led to all these low-fat products, which were often packed with sugar instead. And that seems to have made us, fatter and sicker. The real problem, according to this perspective, is sugar and processed carbohydrates.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution look like on our plates? And we have to start with fat, don't we? That whole eating fat makes you fat ideal.
That's the big one to tackle first. And the research is pretty blunt. That's totally wrong.
Wow. Okay. So break down the fats for us. Saturated fat, the stuff in meat, dairy, coconut oil, that's not the bad guy.
Well, according to this research, no. It's actually vital. You need to absorb certain vitamins, A, E, D, K. They're fat soluble. It also tends to raise your good HDL cholesterol. And there's even some suggestion that might help with appetite control, maybe weight loss. There's just really no evidence to support demonizing it in the way we have. The source even says, our grandparents probably had it right, using butter, lard, tallow.
I like that. Our grandparents knew best. Okay, so if saturated fat is okay, what about the others? Omega-3s, omega-6s, what's the story there?
Right, this is where it gets a bit more nuanced, but really important. Omega-3s, think oily fish, flaxseed, chia, walnuts. They're generally anti-inflammatory. Really good stuff. Omega-6s, on the other hand, tend to be more pro-inflammatory. And the issue is where we get most of them today.
Which is where?
Primarily from what we call vegetable oils, but they're actually mostly seed oils. Soybean oil, corn oil, rapeseed, which is canola safflower oil, that kind of thing.
And these seed oils, are they different from something like, say, olive oil and how they're made?
Oh, absolutely. They go through intense processing. We're talking bleaching, deodorizing, high heat. It's pretty industrial. And because they're cheap and stable, they're everywhere, especially in processed foods, fast food, restaurant cooking. The result, Our intake ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 has gone from maybe 1 to 1 historically, something like 20 to 1 now.
20 to 1, wow.
Yeah, and the source argues this massive imbalance has had disastrous health consequences. So the advice is pretty clear. Cut way back on the seed oils, ramp up the omega-3s.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on from fats. Protein. The official advice is, what, 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight? But this research says that's too low.
Yeah, way too low for optimal health is how they put it. They suggest aiming higher, maybe 1.2 to 1.5 grams per kilo, maybe even up to 2 grams per kilo per day. Especially important for older adults, actually, to fight off that age-related muscle loss, sarcopenia, and generally for growth and repair.
So we've got fat sorted, protein needs an increase. What's the overall food philosophy? What should we eat?
It boils down to something really simple, actually. Eat real food, just like, your grandparents might have. Unprocessed whole foods.
Okay, give us some examples. What's on the yes list?
Lots of great stuff. Eggs are fantastic. Full-fat dairy butter, proper milk, cheese. Meats beef, lamb, pork, chicken, oily fish, definitely salmon, sardines, shellfish too. Organ meats like liver are super nutrient-dense. Nuts like almonds, macadamias, olive oil, but more for dressings, not high-heat cooking. Mushrooms, seaweed, avocado, and loads of green veggies, broccoli, spinach, kale, you name it. Even good quality dark chocolate, 70% cocoa or higher, gets a mention.
What about bacon? People always ask about bacon.
Yeah. The source suggests it's okay if it's from good quality free-range sources, so quality matters.
Got it. And the no list, the stuff to avoid, the nutrient hollow foods.
Right. Top of the list, sugar, obviously. And anything with added sugars. Be really careful with low-fat products. They often swap fat for sugar. White flour stuffed cakes, biscuits, crisps, sweets, ice cream, margarine, and those processed seed oils we talked about. Soft drinks are a huge one. Fruit-flavored drinks, too. And beer, unfortunately, for some.
When you say carbohydrate restriction, it's not just sugar, is it? There's more to it.
That's a really key point. It's sugars and starches. So under sugars, yeah, the obvious sweet stuff, sugary drinks, fruit juices, even the ones marketed as healthy. Some high-sugar fruits like figs, ripe bananas, dried fruit.
Okay. And starches, what falls under that umbrella that might surprise people?
Well, starchy vegetables for starches, potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn, then basically all flours. So that means bread, pasta, pastries, even the whole grain versions.
Even whole grain.
Yep, and other whole grains like rice, oats, quinoa,
Mm-hmm.
legumes too, beans, peas, lentils. From the body's perspective, these all break down into glucose eventually.
Right. So low carb, what does that actually mean in grams per day? Is there a scale?
Yeah, there's definitely a spectrum. Your typical Western diet, like the standard Australian one, might be 200, 300 grams of carbs a day, maybe more.
Right.
Moderate carb would be maybe 100, 130 gram. Low carb is generally defined as under 100 gram, often somewhere between 30 and 100 grams. And then you have very low carb or ketogenic, which is usually under 30 gram, sometimes even under 20 grams per day.
And that idea that we need a certain amount of carbs every day, like 120 grams or something.
That's largely a myth, according to this. Your body is perfectly capable of running on fat, using ketones for fuel, especially the brain. It doesn't need that dietary carbohydrate load.
Let's go back to sugar specifically for a moment. The stats are pretty alarming, aren't they? WHO says no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar a day.
Right. And the average Australian, consuming about 16 teaspoons. 16.
Wow.
And like you said, a single 600 milliliter bottle of Coke has all 16 teaspoons right there. It's wild. Biggest sources are soft drinks, flavored waters, then sugar and syrups added at home, then cakes, muffins. It adds up fast.
And is there a difference in how our body handles different types of sugar, like fructose versus glucose?
Yes, definitely. That's another important point. Glucose can be used by most cells in the body. Fructose, however, is handled almost entirely by the liver. When you consume too much fructose, especially from added sugars like high fructose corn syrup, or even just large amounts of table sugar, the liver gets overwhelmed. It converts the excess fructose into fat. Some stays in the liver, leading to fatty liver, which is a major step towards insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes.
So that quote, before diabetes, there is a long silent scream from the liver. That's referring to this fatty liver buildup.
Precisely. Professor Roy Taylor's work really highlights this connection. The liver fat comes first.
Okay, one more food thing that surprised me. Salt. We're always told salt is bad. Cut down on salt. But this suggests maybe not.
Yeah, it's another one of those counterintuitive points. When you cut out processed foods, which are loaded with salt, and start eating real food, your overall salt intake drops dramatically. You might actually become too low in salt, especially when starting a very low-carb diet. That can contribute to the keto flu fatigue, headaches, feeling rough.
So you might need to add salt.
You might. Good quality salt, like sea salt or pink Himalayan salt, because salt is actually essential for every cell in the body. It's the excess from processed junk that's the problem, not salt itself in a real food context.
Fascinating. Okay, let's broaden out from just the food. What about other habits, like just listening to your body, eating when hungry?
That becomes much easier on this way of eating, actually. When you're fueled by fat and protein, you tend to feel fuller for longer. Your appetite often naturally decreases. So yeah, the advice is eat when you're genuinely hungry, stop when you're satisfied. Don't just eat because the clock says so. Make sure meals are nourishing enough protein, enough healthy fat. A lot of people find they naturally settle into eating just twice a day, maybe lunch and dinner, and feel fine. No constant snacking needed.
And technology comes into play here too, right? Continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, they seem like a game changer.
Oh, absolutely. They've transformed the management of diabetes. Total game changer. No more guesswork with finger pricks. You get real-time data on your phone. See exactly how different foods affect your blood sugar. Maybe porridge sends it soaring, but eggs and avocado keep it perfectly flat.
So you can really personalize your diet. Aim for that flat graph they talk about.
Exactly. Avoid the spikes. Keep your blood sugar stable. It's incredibly empowering information. You see your HbA1c, that long-term measure, coming down.
Okay, what about exercise? We know it's good for us, but how does it fit into this picture, especially relative to diet?
Exercise is definitely important. Huge benefits for like over 30 chronic diseases.
Yeah.
It helps with blood glucose control too, can lower HbA1c by maybe 0.5, 0.7%. That's significant. But, and this is the crucial line, you can't outrun a bad diet. Diet is the primary driver, especially for reversing type 2 diabetes and for weight management. Exercise is a fantastic essential support, but it won't fix a fundamentally poor diet on its own.
So what kind of exercise is recommended?
Well, the standard guidelines are a good starting point. Aim for, say, 150, 300 minutes of moderate activity a week, brisk walking, cycling, or 75, 150 minutes of vigorous activity. And critically, add in muscle strengthening activities at least twice a week. Weights, resistance bands, bodyweight exercises like squats and push-ups, even things like dancing or yoga count.
Why is the strength training so important?
Especially as we get older, it helps prevent muscle loss, maintains metabolic rate, and improves insulin sensitivity. Muscle tissue is great at soaking up glucose. Simple stuff at home can be really effective.
Makes sense. What about sleep? Another pillar of health we often neglect.
Hugely important. And it's not just how long you sleep, it's the quality that matters just as much.
Any tips for improving sleep quality from the source?
Yeah, quite a few practical ones. Get natural sunlight, especially in the morning, to set your body clock. Exercise, but maybe not too intensely right before bed. Evening routine is key. Avoid big meals or too much alcohol late at night. Aim for dinner maybe 3 hours before bed. Cut off caffeine in the afternoon. Try to stick to a regular sleep schedule, even on weekends. Dim the lights, avoid bright screens, phones, tablets for an hour or two before bed. Maybe don't drink fluids right before sleep to avoid waking up. And find ways to unwind mentally.
Good advice. And then there's vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin. Surprising that deficiency is common even in sunny places like Australia.
It is surprising, isn't it? Often put down to the success of sun safety campaigns like Slip, Slop, Slap. People is just avoiding the sun more. But vitamin D is crucial for so many things. Bone health, obviously, but also linked to reducing all-cause mortality, depression, dementia risk, Parkinson's,
Yeah.
even outcomes from things like COVID-19.
So what's the recommendation? Bake in the sun all day.
No, definitely not. Avoid burning at all costs. But aim for maybe 20 minutes of sensible sun exposure on bare skin most days outside of the peak UV hours. It's about balance.
Okay. And one more strategy mentioned is intermittent fasting, or IF. How does that fit in?
IF is presented as another effective tool, especially for weight loss and improving insulin sensitivity, which directly helps with type 2 diabetes. A popular approach is time-restricted eating, TRE. So you might eat all your food within, say, an 8-hour window each day, like 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., and fast for the other 16 hours.
Is that hard to do? Skipping breakfast, for example?
You'd think so, but what many people find is that when they switch to low-carb, high-fat, their hunger hormones stabilize. They just don't feel that gnawing hunger in the morning. So skipping breakfast or eating later becomes surprisingly easy for most.
Right. So putting it all together, the diet changes, the exercise, sleep, sun, maybe IF. What's the payoff? What benefits do people actually see and feel?
Well, the short-term benefits can be pretty quick and noticeable. Reduced appetite is a big one. More energy, better sleep, clearer thinking, that brain fog lifting. Weight loss is common, often around half a kilo to a kilo per week initially. Improvements in mood, less anxiety or depression. People also report reduced chronic inflammation, which can help with things like arthritis, gout, autoimmune issues, PCOS, better gut health, fewer infections. It's quite a list.
And the long game, preventing those really serious complications we talked about at the start.
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? Long term, these changes are about dramatically reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes, which is still the #1 killer, plus preventing or delaying blindness, kidney failure requiring dialysis, nerve damage leading to amputations. The really devastating stuff associated with uncontrolled diabetes. It's about adding healthy years to your life.
It sounds incredibly powerful, and the best way to illustrate that is through real stories. Let's hear about some of these transformations.
Absolutely. These really bring it home. Take Robert. His HbA1c, that average blood sugar measure, was a shocking 16.8, dangerously high.
Wow.
3 months later, it was 5.7, perfectly normal range. He lost 21 kilos and came off his diabetes meds. His doctor, apparently very skeptical initially, just couldn't believe the results.
Incredible. What about others?
There's Rachel Hamilton. She reversed her prediabetes, lost nearly 6 kilos, and for her, the light bulb moment was realizing it wasn't just sugar, but all carbs driving her insulin resistance.
And David Velli.
Another dramatic one. HbA1c went from 20 down to 5. He lost 30 kilograms off all medication. His GP apparently couldn't believe her eyes when she saw his cholesterol and other lipid results improve so much too.
These are life-changing results.
Totally. And Tina Dezen, she was a nurse for 47 years. She thought she knew diabetes management inside out, followed the standard advice, but it wasn't really working. She adopted this approach. Her HbA1c dropped from 8.4 to 5.7. She lost 13 kilos. A healthcare professional realizing the conventional wisdom wasn't the full picture.
That's quite a testament. One more.
Neil Manuel, a farmer, used to drink lots of healthy fruit juices. His HbA1c was 12.2. He got it down to 5.3 remission. Lost 16 kilos. Now he eats just 2 meals a day, isn't hungry, has loads of energy, and he actually feels cheated by the dietary guidelines he followed for so long.
Yeah, you can understand that feeling. These stories are amazing. Okay, to wrap up, let's quickly tackle some common myths that still hang around about low-carb eating. Myth 1, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, hear that a lot. But the argument is, it is sustainable precisely because it controls hunger so well through healthy fats and adequate protein. You're not fighting cravings constantly, which makes long-term adherence much more likely than, say, low-fat, calorie-restricted diets.
Myth 2, you only lose water weight.
Well, there is some initial water loss, that's true, as glycogen stores are depleted. But the ongoing steady weight loss after that first week or two is primarily body fat.
Okay. Myth 3, you need carbs for energy, especially for your brain.
We touched on this. Nope. Your body is incredibly flexible. It can run very efficiently on fat, producing ketones, which the brain uses happily as fuel. You don't need high dietary carbs for energy.
Myth 4, it's all just about calories in, calories out.
Calories matter, of course they do. But hormones matter hugely too, especially insulin. Reducing carbs lowers insulin, which shifts the body from fat storage mode to fat burning mode. It's not just about calorie counting. The type of calorie matters.
Myth 5, low-carb diets harm your liver.
Actually, the evidence points the other way. Low carb, particularly very low carb, is highly effective at reducing liver fat and can even reverse non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Remember the silent scream? This helps quiet it.
And finally, low-carb causes depression.
Again, research often shows the opposite. Many people report improvements in mood, reduced anxiety, and better mental clarity when they cut down on sugar and refined carbs and eat more real food. So pulling it all together, the big message here really is one of hope, isn't it? Type 2 diabetes doesn't have to be this inevitable downward spiral. Understanding the root cause, that carbohydrate intolerance, that insulin resistance, gives you the power to change the trajectory.
Right. It's about taking back control through these targeted changes, embracing real food, mostly low carb, paying attention to how you eat, moving your body, getting good sleep, even getting some sun. This deep dive really shows how powerful those shifts can be, often in ways we didn't expect.
Absolutely. And that leaves us and you with a final thought to maybe chew on. Given how much this faulty obsession with fat, or just general misinformation, seems to have influenced decades of public health advice on diabetes, what other bits of conventional health wisdom might be worth questioning, worth doing a deep dive on yourself?
Yeah, definitely something to think about. Always question, always keep learning.